All right, so welcome to another one for Al Cuerpo Boxing, which means to the body. So let's get with it. Let's talk some boxing. So this weekend, August 10th, we have Vergil Ortiz Jr. Challenging himself against Sergey Boychuk's WBC interim belt at 154. That is a super welterweight, light middleweight, boys. And a pretty good card overall. I think there's some female boxers on that card. I think Cecilia Breakus is on that bout. But another Golden Boy Promotions fighter that I thought about earlier this week, it's going to be Charles Conwell. I apologize, I'm not sure who he is fighting, but he'll also be on that card. Again, another Golden Boy Promotions fighter. Charles Conwell, pretty good pedigree. He's also an Olympian. So I had thought perhaps if Vergil Ortiz wasn't getting the fights that we wanted or he wanted, I think that maybe Golden Boy Promotions would have made a fight between Ortiz Jr. Against Charles Conwell, which would actually be a good fight because Charles Conwell has a lot of power. He has pretty good upper body movement, really good with his combinations. A very heavy-handed guy. So Charles Conwell might be he might be somebody to look out for in the near future at 154 pounds. We'll see what opportunities he gets. But in the meantime, Vergil Ortiz Jr. Making his, debut run at 154 pounds, if I'm not mistaken. His last fight was against Thomas Dulorme. I'm trying to recall if that bout was at 154 pounds. I don't remember. I don't recall. But anyways, I think that fight was rather easy for Vergil Ortiz Jr. just because it was a first round knockout. It was a punch to the body, a nice left hook to the body. It looked actually a little lower than what would have been called a liver shot. It just seemed too close, more towards the belt line. But nonetheless, it was a pretty good body shot. Now, either Vergil Ortiz's power. It's hard to say, guys, because, Dulorme is mostly known for his 147 fights. And as far as physique and size, he would be more of like a small 154 pounder, if you will. Kind of like when Jaime Munguia steamrolled against, what's his name? Saddam Ali. Saddam Ali was just, that was somewhat of a mismatch, at 154 pounds. But anyways, you get the point. Maybe, perhaps this is kind of like a similar scenario. And back then, Jaime Munguia was actually very thin. He was not the physique that he's grown into now, not by any means. So you could say that Vergil Ortiz now is actually a lot bigger, of course. His body looks a lot better than it was at 147. He looked rather thin. But nonetheless, guys get to rehydrate. But I'm just saying now at 154 pounds, I think Vergil Ortiz is at a much better weight. And if some of the stories are true in that, he had hard camps, depriving his body with, certain nutrients or just over exertion in athletics, right? I forgot what type of disease or what type of atrophy he had with his muscles. But if I recall, that's some sort of type of, when you wear out the muscles too much, or perhaps there's some, drainage or cutting too much of a diet theory that, it affected Vergil Ortiz at 147 pounds, welterweight. And so he just, for better cause and, better reasoning him as a boxer, it's better for him to move at 154 pounds so that way fights don't get postponed or rescheduled or we have injuries and whatnot. So it's a good thing that Vergil Ortiz is now at 154 pounds. But anyways, regarding, the 154 pound landscape, again, he beat Thomas Dulorme, which I'm more than sure was at 154 pounds. And so maybe, Thomas Dulorme didn't belong at that weight class as well. So it's hard to know if that first round KO was because, Vergil Ortiz is just, has too much power for, guys at 147, or was, Dulorme just had no business at being 154 pounds. And I'm saying all this because it is imperative. If you're a Vergil Ortiz fan, you should have some worry against Boychuk. Boychuk is his kind of style reminds me a lot of like Golovkin, very methodical style. I thought Tim Tszyu had a more of a Golovkin style, which he does, by the way. But if you look at Sergey Boychuk's style, it is very, very similar to that of Golovkin. Neck very extended out, very, squared up, walking forward, but very good ring IQ. And he definitely has a good pedigree as well. He comes in the realm of Vasily Lomachenko and Alexander Usyk, just because he represents the Ukraine, of course. So very well schooled in the arts of boxing, and he kind of reminds me, and some others have said that he is a bit of like Dmitry Pirog as far as like physique. Maybe not as athletic as Pirog, because Pirog was actually at middleweight when he was fighting Danny Jacobs. I guess that was one of his last fights. But Dmitry Pirog was very light on his feet. He had very good angles. He knew how to switch up, stances. That's different. That's Bochuk's not that. Should that be a concern to Vergil Ortiz? Maybe not, because I don't think Vergil Ortiz's camp, they're not really prepping up for a, elusive athleticism with a guy like Bochuk. They're probably more focused on power placement, getting the shots, getting the feints that they need, so that Vergil Ortiz can set his mighty right hands as well. And not only that, Vergil Ortiz has a really good jab, really good power jab, and Vergil Ortiz is very successful in using a lot of his upper torso core strength, his body weight in using his jabs. So it's going to be interesting. I think right now I'll make a premature prediction in saying that this fight goes 12 rounds. I'm going to say maybe a split decision. Sergey Bochuk is also, he's a bit tall. I believe he's taller than Vergil Ortiz, if I'm not mistaken. So both have a good jab. Both have really good combinations. I would say they're both, heavy-handed. Now, the thing is, you might say, well, Vergil Ortiz, he still has, the nonstop KO streak. You could probably want to say that, he might even get a stoppage on Bochuk, but I think you have to factor in some variables that, Vergil Ortiz is probably a big guy also at 147. He was too heavy-handed for most guys at welterweight, but a guy like Bochuk, who, he took a pretty nasty, left hook against Brandon Adams, and Brandon Adams isn't really known much, of a boxer that's made noise. I wouldn't even call him a fridge contender. I just most of us remember Brandon Adams, from that, I think it was like a reality boxing show or some sort of tournament. But then he fought Jermar Charlo, which surprisingly he went 12 rounds with Jermar Charlo. Most thought he would have been stopped. So who knows? A guy like Brandon Adams is a very interesting, tricky guy, hard guy to beat, I guess, considering those circumstances, right? But anyways, he's the one that pretty much clipped Bochuk with a left hook, and, Bochuk wasn't the same. So he got knocked out by that guy. And so, is Vergil Ortiz, is he as strong as a guy like Brandon Adams? Definitely different physiques. Brandon Adams is a lot more heavy set than a Vergil Ortiz. So a lot of that weight would make a difference. Of course, Brandon Adams using 10-ounce gloves in his career, whereas Vergil Ortiz is, mostly using 8-ounce gloves. And by the way, the Delorme fight would have been obviously his first, his realm into 10-ounce in a debut fight. So maybe that, that extra padding makes a difference when going to the body. It's just, you have more of an area to hit versus the 8-ounce gloves. But I don't know. I'm curious how you guys see this bout. Is it going to be, I want to say if there's going to be a knockdown, I'm going to favor Ortiz for the knockdowns in this bout. I'm just so curious the physiques leading up to this fight during this week on how they size up against each other. I want to say probably both guys will be about the same weight on fight night. But as far as the technical breakdown on who's going to use what, I mean, it's hard to say, man. Both guys have a really good jab. Both guys have a really good right cross. And I think it's just going to be about who's willing to take most of the punishment in the first half until they go more hard on the second half, knowing that things are at stake and that, both guys are going to have to take risks. So Right now, my premature prediction is Vergil Ortiz by split decision. Yep, I'm going to go split decision. And I think Vergil Ortiz will get one knockdown in this bout. Flash knockdown, of course, or who knows what type of knockdown. But I think Boachuk will be able to withstand this power in this whole 10-ounce realms. Because I had gotten the Crawford versus Madrimal fight correct. So I want to go with my 1-0 prediction at the main card predictions, I should say, because I did get some other ones wrong. I believe I had Ortiz maybe edging it out, but I even said, Andy Ruiz versus Big Baby Miller. I had that a 50-50 fight, and I even said it could be a draw. So, interesting things. I did get the Bacoli Anderson bout incorrect. That one I thought Anderson would go for KO. I was deeply mistaken. I totally miscalculated that. As I said, sometimes just the hunger, the young guy sometimes will put it most. And as far as athleticism, I would say Jared Anderson has really, really good athleticism, but just not enough to dent a guy like Bacoli, who's, his stature is just, massive, bro. He's like kind of like, as they say, a George Foreman-esque type of power on both hands, of course. So anyways, sorry for diving off there, but I would say as far as the prediction for this main event, I have got Vergil Ortiz again by split decision with maybe one knockdown in this fight. Let me know what you guys think of this fight. Are you guys excited? We'll talk more this week. Hopefully I can jump on some panels and give my insight on that. Until the next one, guys, al cuerpo boxing, which means to the body.